Welcome to the Empowered Working Mom Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Jocelyn Lieu Young. Our mission here is to amplify the stories of all moms so that they can be seen, heard, and supported in their motherhood journey, regardless of whether they're balancing motherhood with an external career or choosing to dedicate themselves fully to motherhood. We believe here that everyone has a unique story, and we found that storytelling is an impactful way to connect and learn from one another. Because sharing and listening to each other's stories makes us feel connected, supported, and inspired. We're excited to bring you diverse stories from fellow working moms like you. So grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and listen in to today's story to feel acknowledged, encouraged, and most importantly, that you're not alone in your experience as a working mom. Hey mamas, and welcome back to another episode. Today I have the incredible Susan Lieu with us, a multi-hyphenate storyteller, activist, and author whose debut memoir, The Manicurist Daughter, is an Apple book pick and has been celebrated by the New York Times and NPR Books. She's also the creator of the critically acclaimed solo show 140 Pounds, How Beauty Killed My Mother. What really hit me right in the gut during our conversation was Susan's raw honesty about breaking cycles of emotional suppression and how she's teaching her 4-year-old son that his feelings matter. And in this episode, you're going to learn how to trust your intuition as a mom, give yourself permission to pursue your dreams, and create the family culture you actually want. So get ready for some real talk about living like you're mortal and fanning those embers of your calling, as Susan calls it. And as I always say, grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode here on the Empowered Working Mom Revolution podcast. And I am super excited for today's conversation. Welcome, Susan Lieu, to the podcast. Welcome, Susan.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me.
You're so welcome. Okay, I am just going to throw a shout out because, Susan wrote this amazing, she's an author of this amazing book called The Manicurist Daughter. And we were just talking about it before we hit record here. I was just sharing with her, as a child of immigrant parents, I literally cried a couple times throughout the book and felt so seen. So if you have not heard about this book, you got to go get it. You got to go get it. As a daughter of immigrants, seriously, I just felt so seen and also validated for my own experiences. I know we don't all have the exact same experiences, but there were so many points in her story, and we're going to talk about it today, that really felt also healing as a reader. So I just want to say thank you, Susan, for just writing that book and writing your memoir.
Oh my God. Everything an author wants to hear. Thank you so much for reading.
You're welcome. Well, if you can do just a little short intro to let our listeners know, who you are, that'd be great.
I'm a Vietnamese American playwright, performer, author, activist, chocolatier. And I have a 4-year-old son named Art. I live in Seattle, Washington. And my parents are Vietnamese refugees.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit who you are. And I first want to dive into, I know you say this in the book, but I want to hear it from you, what's the significant moment that really changed and made you who you are today as a person and as a mom?
Yeah. So the premise of my work and the reason why I talk about my family story is because there was a tragedy that happened that I was never allowed to talk about. My mom died from a botched tummy tuck when she was just 38 years old. I was 11, one of 4 of her kids. She had this 2-nail salon empire. She was the pillar of our family, and it all comes crashing down from a negligent plastic surgeon. And for the next 3 decades, my family has never spoken about her or what happened ever again. And anytime I ever asked, what was she like? Are you okay? Tell me where you were on that day. Everyone's like, you're living in the past. You're too emotional. Why are you trying to make things hard for everybody? And so I was taught that my feelings were not okay, that vulnerability was weak, and that my intuition of wanting to know my mother was shameful, and then I was bringing burden onto my family. So I grew up internalizing this and believing that feelings were not okay, and anything I intuitively knew was wrong, because it was always about getting the approval of elders, right? And so as a mom, and especially of a mom of a boy, I am trying to hold space to allow those feelings. Let them be, baby. Let's get to a place of regulation. And then let's talk about options and solutions to move forward, right? Instead of just like, shut it down, wipe your eyes, go wash your face, and shut up, right? Like, that was what I was growing up with. And so now as a parent, I'm trying to be really aware of emotions. And yes, there are pitfalls to gentle parenting. But also the thing is if you bottle up these emotions, if they have nowhere to go, the body keeps the score, right? The trauma is in your body. Where is it going to go? And for decades, I've tried to unlearn that. I've tried to validate my inner child and feelings. And because it permeates everywhere else, right? Of just like, are you allowed to give yourself anything that you want? Or is it just deny, 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 right? And adhere to the collective. And so with my kiddo, that's the first thing with emotions. And the second thing is around food and body image. My mom, she died from a botched tummy tuck. And a year later, I'm going in for a second bowl of rice. And my aunts and my dad are like, whoa, 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 don't eat too much. If you eat too much, then you're going to get fat. If you get fat, you're going to die alone and no one will love you. I'm like 12, guys. Apropos what happened, right? And I'm just sitting there going like, you're right. You're right. And food became this like tool of warfare, right? Where it's like you eat to please your elders because they made you what you wanted. It was your special dish, or eat all the grains of rice so you don't have to eat worms in hell because we grew up during the Vietnam War, like, and it was just kind of like, it was about listening just to your elders and not listening to your body. It was about being extremely disconnected and always thinking that approval and love was so conditional. And so with my kiddo, when he says he's done, okay, you're done. Like, I know you just asked for a second bowl of cereal and you only ate like 4 of those Cheerios. I also bought it from Costco, so it's not actually that much money, because I'm calculating it, right? But at the same time, I don't want food and body and shame to be so mixed up together you can't unseparate it, right? Like, because I think for so long, it's taken me so long to know when I'm full, right? Instead of like, oh, I have to keep finishing. I have to keep finishing because otherwise I'm bad. It's this moral judgment that we have on ourselves instead of just being like, no, what does my body need, right? And allowing that to occur. His body should not be collective property. His body is his, and he should have body autonomy, as I should too. For so long, I've turned to emotional eating, right? Because where else could it go? Where could those emotions go? So now as Mama Bear, I'm like, cool, you're full? All right. We're not gonna make a big deal out of it. Great. Move on to the next thing. And that's it, right? Like, instead of having a moral judgment around it.
Yeah. Gosh, there's so much that you shared in that, because it's like, as I was listening, you're teaching yourself to unlearn so that you can teach your son. What's that like? Because that's like 2 things at one time. And I totally resonate, because I'm like in that space too. And I have two preteen daughters. And the whole like, got to act a certain way, and got to act a certain way. Don't use your voice. Like, I got that already from my dad, like over Thanksgiving. He's like, wow, your daughter says a lot. I was like, yeah, she has every right to. Right. And there's that dynamic of, I learned to shut my voice down.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
And not trust myself. So like, for you, what is that like to just teach, you're like unlearning so that you can teach your son?
Girl, there's good days, there's bad days, right? like I know what the North Star is. And I know what it feels good to feel in my body. And I know when it feels bad in my body. Right. And sometimes even my kid will call me out. He'll be like, we'll be at the dinner table. He'd be like, Ma, it's not a race. Cause I'll be like eating really fast. Cause I'm like kind of really thinking about the next task. Right. Or like, we're like planning the next thing, or we got to make a plane or whatever, and it's just like, I'm like, oh my God, he just called me out. He just called me out, which is good. I think it's like when you are, isn't that when you become the master is when you actively live and teach it, right? Like, right. And so I never thought that motherhood would be like intense personal growth boot camp. Like I've done personal growth stuff. I've screamed no out loud. I've been in cults. I've done it. And yet the true petri dish of knowing where you are in your growth is how you're operating the family unit as a mother, or when you go visit your family for Thanksgiving and you kind of see how things are going. Are you able to communicate your boundaries and your wants and needs, right? And it's just like family is a very fascinating organism, right? It's our first place where we experience community. And the question is like, how do I want to design my own community? Right? Like we think about like the mayor of a town or the president of the United States, and we give so much power to that title. And yet actually there is so much power in being a mother. We're teaching them norms all the time. And the question is do we live those norms? And so, yes, I have good days. I have bad days. And every day is just a day to try, right? And when I drop off my kid at school, I'm that mom where I'm like, Art, make it a great day.
I love it.
He's like, okay, Mom, bye. I'm like, bye, right? We got to remember how much ownership we actually have. Like, I think we're looking for control in so many other places in our lives, and yet we actually have so much space to be intentional in our family unit, which is actually really exciting. So I think the question is how am I doing it with my general self-care, right? And how am I actually just taking care of my needs? Because if I can do all those things, then I can show up as the best mom. I can show up the best version of me, right? But it's always just like, where am I on the pendulum? I always feel like I'm moving from extreme of like, I gotta hustle. And am I building any core memories for Halloween? Yeah.
I love that metaphor of the pendulum. It's such a pendulum swing, right? And that, I love what you said, where it's like, if I can take care of myself and how that can extend back towards, being a mom to our kids. And I'm wondering, you mentioned about trust. You had to learn to trust yourself. Oh, I'm just gonna say with that like really like resonated deeply with me, because I don't know if that's such as an child of immigrants, like how did you learn how to trust yourself? Because as a mom, you also have to trust your decisions and what's best, right? So how did you learn how to build that trust back into trusting your own intuition and trusting yourself?
Yeah, my God. I always felt like the black sheep in my family. And since no one wanted to talk about my mother's death, when I went to Harvard, I eventually found myself in a Korean yoga cult. And I found this like sense of belonging and family there. I saw consistent rules on how people were going to behave with me. And it was really refreshing. And it was also really frustrating because I was paying for it, right? Because like in a family, you might not pay money to be in a family, but if the rules are always fluctuating, it's very hard to know where you stand with something. And that's really unsettling too. And so for me, it's like I had to be in enough situations, like being in the cult, where eventually I was like, I'm in a cult, Susan, get out. And I knew I was in a cult, and I still stayed in it. Until eventually I was like, okay, no, my inner knowing is saying, this is crazy. We got to leave. Like, they just want money from you. Get out. And eventually I was strong enough to get out from the help of a wonderful ex-boyfriend. But the point in all this is I had to be in enough situations where it didn't feel right. Right? Where I did know what my inner knowing was. I didn't trust it. I suffered the consequences. And then I was like, okay, got it. I should have trusted myself the first time, right? So it was almost like failing enough times to then to affirm that I should trust my intuition. I am also an ENFJ on Myers-Briggs, which means I'm an intuitive decision maker. And so for me, that is inherently how I make decisions. And there are plenty of times when I don't follow that. And then I just like get myself in a little mess of a trouble. And then I go, okay, again, affirming what I should do, right? So I guess it's like failure. Failure helps me remember what the line is of my knowing, and that when I deviate from the knowing, then I'm happy. Okay, great. So what am I going to do differently this time?
Yeah. I love that how you're utilizing failure as the opportunity.
Oh, I know, right? Whereas that's usually a shameful thing.
Yeah.
But I learned so much more in failure than success. You know, like whenever like something works out, I'm like, oh, cool, great, on to the next thing. But when something doesn't work out, or I get criticism from somebody, I'm like, ooh, that stung. Like, where's the truth in that? What can I learn from that today? You know?
Yeah. Can you share with us maybe a story of one of your failures and how you navigated through that?
Oh my God. I was like, oh, which one do we want to start with today? My dad really wanted me to get a master's degree. And his life plan for me was like, go to college, get a master's degree, then get a boyfriend, then get married, then have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I was like, had boyfriends in high school. I was doing all these other things. So I wanted my father's approval so much that eventually I was like, well, I'm not a chemist. I'm not a physicist. Like, what am I really going to get a master's in? I'll get a master's in business because it's flexible. I go do that. I have a lot of debt. I want to go in the public sector, but all the public sector people are like, you should be in the private sector, like that. You get trained better and then bring your learnings over. And I'm like, okay, so I go to the private sector. And I have never been, maybe the word miserable isn't right, but feeling like not fully used, you know, like not applying myself fully, like not also feeling seen. My skills aren't being recognized and used. And I was in this like spin dry cycle, man. Like, and I was like in a laundry machine where I kept going in and out of corporate America, where it was just like all roads in Seattle kind of lead to Microsoft money. Yeah. And I just kept showing up as a contractor there, even though I would like quit certain places. And then somehow all the money just kept flowing back there. And I kept getting jobs there. But my intuitive knowing was like, you need to get out. And I was just the worst wife on the weekends because I knew Monday would come. And then I'd have to make the commute back and like go to this place where it wasn't even that hard, but I don't know if you've ever had an experience where you're like, I do not belong here. When they're like, you're a square peg in a round hole or whatever, like there's not moral judgment on them. It's more like me and them were not fitting together, but I kept forcing the issue because the money was good, because I could be a good daughter and give money to my dad every month finally, right? And it was just like, I hated myself, man. I hated myself, and I just my life experience was just so terrible until I started going into the arts, and I was like, if I'm gonna do this mom thing, I need to like scratch this itch around performance. I was like a failed stand-up comic, but things were working out for me, but I got really heckled, and I was like, I feel like in my orbit on stage, can I just give myself that permission for 2 years to explore this as a hobby? And then I'll take out my IUD and be a mom, you know, like, and it was actually that started making me feel like I wasn't the walking dead anymore. You know, like I didn't realize I was actually a zombie in my own life, right? Because I was like really trying to appease my father and pay off these loans. And now we had a mortgage. Like I was like, I'm doing all the things I think I'm supposed to do as an adult. And yet I really freaking hate it. And now I've got this like small sliver of a corner in my life where it actually feels really exciting. Like, sure, I'll go audition for this improv group. Sure, I'll take this solo performance class, see what happens. And then boom, like I started like to feel so alive and exalted and feeling like, whoa, I'm feeling mortal. Like I feel alive in my life. I feel present in my life. What is this? And so it was kind of like the failure of being like not a cultural fit in the workplace and staying there for a really long time. It was only, I'll tell you, Jocelyn, it was only because they fired me that I finally made the leap to go into the arts, right? Like you don't like openly choose to like leave good money. You know what I mean? You kind of get forced out but I was at a fork in the road and I was kind of like, do the thing where, you know, you just always apply for the job that's going to maximize income, right? You're going to like, what's the thing I can get most paid for and probably get a job at? Great. So I made this like spreadsheet. I started doing informationals. I started applying and I had this tab open. I had the tab open of the solo performance class. And I was like, okay, well, let me just sign up for the class. I can give myself Thursday nights at least. And then that's when the snowball started to roll.
It's almost like you getting fired. It was like the universe is like, here you go.
Yeah. But how embarrassing to get fired. Like for me, I was always my high school GPA was 4.86. Okay. Like I've always been this overachiever and like whatever I wanted, it happened. And then all of a sudden, like I got fired from a job. Yeah. Like what? Like, and I think for a while, man, was my ego bruised. I was like, you know, it's different when you're like, I dumped you, you didn't dump me, you know, but
100%.
Yeah. And they dumped me, but thank God they did.
Yeah. I thank you so much for sharing that story. I think there's so many people that can resonate with that. Like the part where you feel like you're a walking zombie, right? Like I was like in my head, 100%, I've been there. And the part where you said you allowed yourself permission, like that stuck out to me where you allowed yourself permission. And I don't know if it's maybe a cultural thing where I find that it's hard to allow ourselves permission. Saw that? Okay, y'all, we're on video and Susan just like, oh my God, we're like,
yeah. Well, I'm like, why is it that only on my birthday that I can justify anything I want? You know what I mean?
True. Yes.
You know what I mean? Where you're just like, oh, I want that. Okay. You know, but 364 days of the year, right? It's like anticipate everyone's needs, accommodate what's going to optimize everyone's enjoyment. And I'm only like one very small part in that calculation, or I'm happy to cut off my own desires for the betterment of the group. Right. So it was when I was able to be like, no, Thursday evenings, I'm going to go to this thing called solo performance class. Yeah. Like I can give myself that.
Yeah. How did you get to that place to give yourself that? That's like, cause how did you give yourself?
My dad and aunts were yelling at me. God, this whole episode is about elders.
Yes, it is.
They're so scary and they're so short. But like my aunt's like 4'2". But like I had gotten married and then they're like calling me every week being like, you're not getting any younger. You need to start having babies. You'll thank me later. Do it now. It's pretty much that. And I was kind of sitting there and my husband and I were kind of on the fence about having kids in general, besides the whole narrative of Susan, you're so fat and ugly, no one will ever love you. Like I always wanted a Prince Charming to save me, but I actually never believed it would happen, let alone my husband would be a hot Korean. You know what I mean? Like I was like, what? Like everyone was like, he's kind of like, looks like a dreamy movie star. And I was like, what? Like it was like so hilarious to me because I just kind of like wrote myself off as a cat lady, right? Like where I was like, it's okay. Like I'm just gonna be the kooky aunt for the rest of my life because my family has just said because I'm a size 4, size 6, I'm just like a fat tub of lard that no one likes. So okay, like I kind of accepted it because it was so drilled in my head since I was a kid. You know, my sister was like a 00. Like she was like the body shape that I could never be. And I still am never going to be that, right? I work out 4 times a week, and guys, I still look like a Bartlett pear. You know what I mean? Like, that's just how it looks.
Yeah.
But the point in all of this is that, shoot, what was your question?
So how did you allow yourself permission? Get to that point. Yeah.
Because I was afraid of their judgment. So my aunts and my dad were like, have kids, have kids, have kids. And then I told my husband, I was like, okay, we're on the fence. Can we set a container? Can we give each other 2 years? I'm going to get the wiggles out with performance. You're going to get the wiggles out with outdoors mountaineering. And then at the end of the 2 years, can we kind of come back to this question? You know what I mean? Like I needed to time box it. I needed to really deal with my own shadow work because I really kind of felt like a coward. You know, I felt like, how can I tell my kid, be what you want in life if I didn't do that for myself? Like, I knew I was supposed to be on stage, but I was so terrified of getting heckled again that I was just like, I don't know how I can come back. And so I made a deal with my husband where I'm like, let me just mess around. Let me just take some classes. Let me just audition for some things. And then after that, let me get the wiggles out. And then I feel ready to do this, you know? So I think part of it is like, how do I have integrity with my future child? Right. And how do I get the nagging to stop from my elders? Well, I can do that if I can just deal with my big fears around performance, settle that, and then I'll take my IED out, you know? And so it was part of this thing that I convinced myself, like, I'm on a timeline. And so I only have 2 years. So I need to start applying for things like a class, right? I need structure to figure out this performance stuff because I tried to do it alone by myself and it went nowhere. I'm always so intimidated by social media where it's like on YouTube, like if you don't have 1 million followers or plays on something, then like that wasn't relevant. It wasn't interesting. And I'm so intimidated by that. So me thinking like, can I be a content creator on my own? It just felt so scary. I just really needed that structure. And I was just like, okay, well, I'm going to kill all the birds with all the stones if I just sign up for this class, because then I'll get my wiggles out and then I'll have the confidence to become a mom.
I just love how Susan shared her thought process in giving herself permission to take that step towards her dream. And I find it so relatable how we struggle to give ourselves permission to go after the things that our intuition tells us, right? Because how many of us, me included, have had that tab open on our browser just staring either at that class or that job opportunity we want, but can't quite pull the trigger on it. Now, before we continue to hear what transpired for Susan from that $200 performance class, let's take a quick pause. Hey there, mamas. Let's talk about that 4 p.m. panic moment we all know too well. You know, when you realize you have no idea what's for dinner tonight, let alone the rest of the week. I've totally been there, standing in the Trader Joe aisle, trying to piece together meals while juggling work calls and school pickup times. And that's why I'm excited to share Plan to Eat with you, the meal planning service that has honestly been a super game changer for me and my family. I've been using it for years. Plan to Eat lets you organize your recipes, automatically generates shopping lists, and helps you plan your meals for the week in just minutes. No more last minute takeout guilt or scrambling through Pinterest at 5 p.m. What I love most is how it gives me back control over my time and our family to be able to eat healthily. I can plan our meals during my Sunday coffee moments, and the rest of the week just flows smoothly. Right now, my listeners can get 20% off their first year subscription. Just head to plantoeat.com/REF/empowered mom. That's plantoeat.com/REF/empowered mom. Trust me, your future self will thank you when you're not stressing about dinner every single night. Now back to our conversation. Welcome back, mamas. We're diving back into Susan's story of how she gave herself permission to take that first step. And I can't wait for you to hear what unfolded from there and the wisdom she gained along the way. So let's dive right back in. That is amazing because just signing up for that class, like I see that as a big move and also a small move too, all at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, no, usually I would not justify. I think it was like under like it was like $200 to $500 or something. It was an 8-week course. And I was kind of like, usually I'm like, how do I apply for a scholarship or how do
Yeah.
and I'm like, Susan, you're like 30 something now. You have like a corporate job. You can, you know what it is, Jocelyn? It's like it's taken me a long time to learn how to spend money for things I want.
So true. I'm still in that space too.
You know what I mean? Like if it's
Yeah.
not on clearance or on sale, even if
Yeah.
I don't need it, then I kind of buy it and then I'm like, then later throw it away or give it away. I'm like, damn, I'm like really, I'm learning about how to spend money for myself, like if it's for my kid, like he don't have long enough pants. Of course, we're going to get long enough pants. That's not hard for me, but it's these things where it's like, they're kind of optional. Like a solo performance class is purely for your own leisure, like your own joy. Like what? You know what I mean? Like it's different where it's like if I go out to dinner with a friend and spend money on food for some reason that's different than like me buying something I really, really want that's not for my basic survival.
Yes. Okay. So that leads me to the next question because that takes a leap of faith, right? You're spending money on something that doesn't necessarily meet your basic needs, but actually I'm going to challenge that because there is a need in some way. So how do you take that leap of faith? How did you take that leap of faith to just spend that money knowing that nice to have? I don't know.
I know. Yeah. Well, there's different feelings I get in my body. And sometimes those feelings are when I'm like really scared and I'm like, it means the stakes are high. It means something's really important. It makes me feel alive. Like it makes me feel like I'm actually mortal. There's some juiciness here. There's something that I'm going to learn here, right? That I can't like kind of create on my own. And also I'm super extroverted, so I kind of need structure in people. And I was like, interesting. So when I get this feeling of deep fear, I think it's exciting, and I think because I lost my mom when she was 38, I've always lived it with this sense of urgency around like, I don't know when my time's up, right? Like it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. I read the obituaries for fun in the New York Times. Okay. and I always read the ones where people are in their 40s and 50s. And I'm so curious about what happened. And most of the time, I mean, if they're in the New York Times, like they're maybe they do have money, right? But it's like they got money, they still died, right? They wanted to live and they didn't. So when I feel this tickle in my stomach of anticipation and fear, when that tab is still open on my browser and I'm still applying for jobs, but I just keep clicking at it, there's something there, right? Like something, I think the calling in us never dies. I think we just dim the volume when we ignore it, right? But when we kind of give it a little bit more oxygen, it pumps up the volume, and then you're like, hey, I actually really like this song. I'm gonna dance like no one's watching, because guess what? No one is watching.
No one is watching.
No, that's the big secret. No one's watching. No one cares. And so if it's gonna serve you, if it's on your heart and mind, why not give it to yourself? Because you should live like you're mortal, because you are.
Love it. I love it. I love how you just really painted a really vivid picture of how to do that.
Yeah. So it's like the feeling in your body, right? And
yeah.
And hopefully over time, right? It's going back to feeling connected with your body and how you feel.
Trusting.
And you're like, when I keep giving myself good things that make it feel good, like a choice, like to sign up for a class, and then I get excited and have something to look forward to. And I haven't felt this way in a long time. Like, okay, then we're rebuilding that muscle again of remembering what it feels like when I feel good, what it feels like when I feel bad. Because girl, when I'm on the train of a lot of emotional eating and I'm super bloated because I ate too much brie, my body can't distinguish and feel anything. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it doesn't even remember what good feels like. So it's like, okay, let's just start small with like really small actions and rebuild that muscle so we can build that intuition, so we can turn up to the volume, so we can dance to our music.
I love that. You know why? Because I feel like that's going to speak to a lot of moms, right? That feel kind of stuck in their version of motherhood. You're right. Because I don't know if you've heard, I hear some people like, I can't right now. My kids are too little, or I can't because I gotta wait until they graduate graduate high school and they go to college. I can't, and so I love how you just shared, tuning into that feeling of aliveness and taking tiny steps to do that.
Oh my God, yes. I also need to advocate self-care.
Yes.
And we in Seattle, we have this Korean women's spa called Olympus Spa. I love it. And I buy passes for myself at a discounted rates to force myself to be like, oh, they're going to expire. I have to go. But I essentially go quarterly, and I give myself 3 to 4 hours to be there. It's 3 to 4 hours. It's just infrared room, like jade on the walls, like mugwort and eucalyptus steam room and stuff, like Korean women, like rubbing off dead skin. But I got to tell you, 3 to 4 hours later, I walk out of there like a new woman, like I feel so filled. And it was really relatively only 3 to 4 hours, but the cup is so much fuller, right? Like I have so much more capacity to give, and I am now the best version of me. And it's not just about being at the spot with the cucumbers on your face. It's not being tethered to the phone. It's not being needed. It's not always giving. There was a moment where I could relax, slow down, even remember what it means to relax, right? Because we're always on edge as moms. We're always like, there's all this mind share. We are out of RAM. We are holding so much. There was this one time I forgot my house code. Like I'm just standing there. I'm just like punching some. I don't even know how to get in my house anymore. Because we're holding so much. And to carve out, either it's one Thursday every week, right? For the solo performance class, 1 to 2 hours, or quarterly. I go to that spa day just so I can just put my phone on airplane mode, right? It serves everyone else tenfold. So you need to justify it that way of like feeling like, oh my God, I'm always depleted and I'm still needed and I'm still so behind. Then I'm kind of like, look, we're always going to be behind. There's always going to be another thing to do. But if you're that depleted and that exhausted, you got to hit pause. You got to hit pause because you're working at like a 30 to 50% efficiency level anyways. You know what I mean? And so the question is like, we're mind, heart, body, spirit. We're all of those things. I also do this monthly thing called Earth Mother Circle. It's on another island, and there's like smudging when I arrive. There's drumming. There's thanking the grandmothers. There's potlucking. There's forest bathing. There's a lot of singing. There's a lot of like tender gazing. It's like 6 hours, one Sunday a month for 7 months of the year. It's a cohort of women, and we're just sisterhood. I come back and my husband's always like, hey, can you not go? Can you? And I'm like, no, like I have to protect it. And I always skip a couple, right? But when I come back, damn, there's sunshines and butterflies everywhere. You know what I mean? Where I'm just like, yeah, like I'm excited to mom.
Yeah.
I'm excited to come back to the job. You know what I mean? Like I got to go on PTO too. And especially as a working artist, where there's really no boundaries with my work, right? And there's no manager I can complain about. I need to create some kind of a sacred space for me where I really can unplug, where I can fall apart, and then I'll come back together again, right?
Yeah, it serves everyone.
It serves everyone.
It serves everyone. I think that's the part where people, moms especially feel like it's selfish. And it's like, no, it's not selfish. It's serving. It's not just serving you, but it's serving everyone else, right? Because then you can serve at a greater capacity when you feel that aliveness, right? Those 3 to 4 hours, that 6 hours, that that sounds lovely. I'm like, I want to be there.
It's so great.
Like that just helps you tune into just that feeling of aliveness, tuning into yourself, because you're just totally unplugged from everything.
Yeah. I mean, whatever you need to justify, which is I'm better for everyone else later. But at the end of the day, like for me, speaking from experiences, I get resentful. I get resentful because I was the youngest of four. My husband's the oldest of three. I do defer a lot. And I'm like, call me out on this, because he'll always be like, what do you think? And after a while, I don't even know what I think anymore. I'm like, what do you think? What do you want? Right? Like it becomes this like very difficult cycle where I think I'm trying to like do things for the greater good, but actually internally inner child Susan's like pretty resentful. And then, you know, I lose my sense of knowing. So in a way, going to things like Earth Mother Circle or going to the spa and like just like hitting pause on everything, guys, like nothing's gonna break. Okay, hopefully. But when I can hit pause, it's also me as an individual and me and inner child Susan, you know, and giving her time and space, because I think the role as a mom is so all consuming. And at the end of the day, we are multitudes, right? We're all multidimensional, and we really need to give our inner child real space to play, to be fed, to fall apart, right? Like really, because that's who we are at our core, is this still one soul and individual spirit that has come on this planet. It comes alone and it dies alone. It's true. It's sad. It's morbid. I talk about grief, but like, then we got to do the internal work to serve the external, right? And so the question is how can you structure your life so you do get moments of pause, even if it is quarterly, right? Hopefully it's weekly. I don't know. Maybe it's even just a 5-minute walk in between meetings, right? You can shovel food at your desk and eat while you're eating lunch, or can you give yourself that 5 minutes? Because you know what? Some genius is going to download into your brain, you know, or you're going to get some clarity on a decision that staring at a nightlight, bright light of your computer screen is not going to give you. So how do we carve out the micro and macro moments for the inner child to have the clarity so that we can serve?
You just dropped some big truth bombs right there, Susan. I love it. I love it. Because that is so true. So true. Like you got to feed your inner soul. Got to feed your inner soul.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And what would you kind of leave us with? I mean, you said so much words of wisdom in your stories and what you shared so far. But if there's one thing that you want to leave our listeners with, what is it that you want to leave them with in terms of words of wisdom?
Yeah. I want you to live like you're mortal, girl. I want you to live, because we live like we're immortal. We think we're going to get to it later, have that tough conversation easily, conveniently later. Oh, that thing I really want to do later. My mom had no later. She was 38. You know, she walked into a really bad situation. I'm 39. I wanted to publish my book when I was 38 as an homage to her. I did it. I don't know when I'm going to die, right? Well, if you read my book, Uncle Number 9, the spirit channeler tells me when I'm going to die.
Yes.
but the point, so I'm like, okay, good. That helps me calculate what happens with the living trust that we have. But the point is we don't truly know. We don't truly know our time. And so the question I have for all your listeners is, what is that thing that you've dialed down? What is that voice saying that she wants? You know, and what is like one small action, 1 2-degree turn? I'm not talking about a 180. I'm talking about just a 2-degree turn of a micro action you can take today to give it just a little more oxygen. Maybe you've always wanted to take voice lessons. Oh, cool. Your friend who's good at singing, can you just text her and be like, how'd you learn? And that could just be it. That could be your small micro action today, you know? Or it's like, I want to learn how to sew, or you know what? I want to go to all the onsens in Japan. Like, cool. Like, just, can you go get a book, like on Amazon, you know, just order it, just look at the book and look at the pictures. You know what I mean? Like, I just want you to look, what's that small micro action where you can just give a little oxygen and a little nourishment to something that we start fanning like an ember.
Mm.
Because I gotta tell you, me getting heckled off that stand-up comedy stage, and then 3 years later coming back to the microphone during my one-woman show, taking it on 10-city national tour, finding a lit agent along the way, getting a book deal. Now my book is Smithsonian and NPR Book of the Year. Like, I'm sitting here going like, I have no training in theater or writing. And yet I am living this dream I've always had, to be a storyteller on intergenerational healing, to create moments of wonder for people. Like, when I was in business school, I drew this out. I said, I want to be a chief wonder officer. Like, I didn't know what that was going to be like, right? Like, and it's just like, I got to tell you, it's been inch by inch where I fan the embers, right? And so I'm just kind of like, live like you're mortal, baby. Just take one small action today. Maybe that's just like confessing to a friend that you really want to do something. That can be the action, right? Because then 6 years later, after my arts pivot, I am living the life of my dreams. I truly am. And I didn't know the how, right? And I got to encourage bold naivete here. Like, people, like, if I only knew the odds of how high the failure rate was, you know what I mean? But it was like, it was because I allowed that voice to have some space, and I listened to her. So live like you're mortal and listen to the voice.
Fan the embers so that it can become a flame. Just fan it. Yes, isn't it? Or dance with their hands, like fanning it.
We're making a new dance move, everybody.
Yes. I love it. I love it. I really am such a huge fan of like micro steps. So I'm so glad that you shared that, to give it oxygen. Love that metaphor. Give it oxygen, because then let it breathe. Right.
Yeah.
And then you'll have this huge breath and you're like, whoa, like 6 years later, here you are living the dream, what you envisioned for yourself.
Small steps.
Steps.
When I was writing my memoir, oh my God, it was such a slog. I kept saying inch by inch. That's all I kept saying.
I love that. My phrase is mini movements, right? Like,
yeah. Okay.
Well, let's play the game for Mom Moments in a Minute. You ready?
Ready.
There's 3 questions. So first question is, to have a moment of peace and quiet to yourself, out of these 4 places, which place would you choose? The bathroom, the car, the bedroom, or the closet?
It's a car. Yeah, always shuttling around, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then I'm like, then I start talking to myself out loud. Yeah. Totally.
Car. I love it. 2 is an open-ended question. What's your favorite thing to do with art, your kid?
Oh my God. There's so much. I was like right now I'm like speech therapy. No, that's not a favorite thing. I like planning parties with him. Yeah, like his birthday party or Halloween or a summer party, and I'd be like, okay, so how do you want it to go? Great. Like, who do you want to invite? And then, because one day he was like, Ma, you're my hero. And I'm like, oh, why? And he's like, because you give me pasta and people. And I was like, oh, okay. But I'm trying to train him that he can manifest what he wants, right? And that he's a designer and we're always designing experiences. So I like to do that with him.
That sounds so fun. And last one is, to relax, out of these 5 choices, what would you choose? A spa, a hike, a nap, reading, or crafting?
Do I have to choose the 5 or can I do other?
You could do other and share with us your other.
I love hot springs. Like natural ones. Not the kind where it looks like a pool. Like, I like it built into nature, and then I like to go, the hot pools and stuff, and then cold plunge. Like, that is cool. I can't touch my phone with my wet hands, So there's a number of spots that I've gone to that are like, yeah, that's cool. So I'm always really curious about going to a hot spring.
Ooh, hot springs, natural hot springs, I'm
Yeah.
hearing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for playing that little game with us. If people want to get connected with you, learn more about you, where can they find you?
Yeah, thanks. On Instagram at Susan Lieu, Lieu. And then on my website, susanlieu.me, you can sign up for my newsletter. You can watch 140 Pounds, stream it, and also find out about my book.
Yeah, get her book, watch her TEDx talk. I watched her TEDx talk, which was amazing.
It's called How to Make Peace with My Belly Fat.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much for being on the show today and just having this so much fun conversation and sharing your stories and all your nuggets of wisdom with me and our listeners. Thank you just for your presence today.
God, thanks for having me. You know, we're all in it, girls. We're all in it.
Yes. Alrighty, moms, I hope you enjoyed and feel empowered and seen from today's conversation. Our mission here on the podcast is to amplify the stories of all moms so that you can be seen, heard, and supported in your motherhood journey, regardless of whether you're balancing motherhood with an external career or choosing to dedicate yourself fully to motherhood. And we would appreciate your support because your support matters. And here are 3 ways to support the mission of the podcast. First, you can leave a rating on Apple Podcasts so more moms can discover this podcast. You can select a star rating by scrolling down on the Empowered Working Mom Revolution show page in the Apple Podcasts app. 2, you can write a review on Apple Podcasts so more moms can find a place of solace, comfort, and belonging through this podcast. You can do this by scrolling down on the Empowered Working Mom Revolution show page in the Apple Podcasts app and tap Write a Review. And lastly, make a one-time donation to the podcast for as little as $7 or whatever amount feels best for you. You can click the link in the show notes to make a donation. We appreciate your support, and thanks again for listening in and joining me here on the podcast. I look forward to sharing with you another inspiring mom moment story next week. So until next Wednesday, moms, have a great day.